Hi, my name is Audrey Langis, and today I am sharing with you this little presentation of grammar notions focused on subordinators, transitional words, and relative pronouns. I'm hoping that at the end of the video, these grammar notions will be easier for you to use. Let's get started. Firstly, subordinators. A majority of students make mistakes when they write complex sentences. A complex sentence contains at least one main clause and one dependent clause. A dependent clause can appear at the beginning, middle, or end of a sentence. In this type of sentence, dependent clauses usually begins with a subordinator. Each subordinator is classified in different categories. For a cause or a reason, use the subordinator as, because, since, or so that. For a condition or a result, use as long as, even if, only if, provide, that, so that, or unless. For a contrast, use although, even though, if, though, whereas, or unless. For a place, simply use where or wherever. And finally, for a time, use after, before, once, since, until, when, whenever, or while. You have to remember that if you use a subordinator at the beginning of a sentence, always put a comma after the dependent clause. Usually, if you use a subordinator in the middle of a sentence, you do not need to use a comma. For example, because the phone was raining, my mom arrived. My mom arrived because the phone was raining. You do not need a comma. Secondly, transitional words and expressions. A transitional expression can appear at the beginning of a sentence. It can also link to complete ideas and show how they are related. For an addition, use additionally, also, besides, furthermore, in addition, or moreover. For example, furthermore, your sale will not improve until you make your store more appealing. For an alternative, use in fact, in spite of, instead, on the contrary, on the other hand, or otherwise. For example, in spite of the warning from the engineer, the contractor used semen that was too thin. For a contrast, use despite, however, nevertheless, nonetheless, or still. For example, I will pay for the bricks with cash, however, I will use my credit card to pay for the wood. For a time, use subsequently, eventually, finally, later, meanwhile, or next. For example, eventually, I will do my homework. For example or emphasis, use undoubtedly, for example, for instance, namely, or of course. Example, for instance, students can study at the library. For a result or a consequence, use consequently, hence, therefore, or thus. For example, the store was out of chocolate chips, therefore they will need to make a different type of cookies. A compound sentence is composed of two complete and independent ideas. You can join the two ideas with a coordinating conjunction, and, but, or, nor, or yet. Place a comma before the coordinating conjunction. You can also join the two sentences with a transitional expression. Place a semicolon before the transition and a comma after it. For example, for a simple sentence, this house is in terrible condition. However, it can be renovated. For a compound sentence, this house is in terrible condition, but it can be renovated. This house is in terrible condition, however, it can be renovated. Or this house is in terrible condition, of course it can be renovated. For the relative pronouns, a relative pronoun describes a noun or a pronoun. The most common relative pronouns are the following: that, which, who or whoever, whom or whomever, and whose. Use that to add information about a thing. Example, the pens that I bought are now in liquidation. Use which to add non-essential information about a thing. For example, the stock market, which peaked in 2008, has fallen in recent years. Use who or whoever to add information about a person. Who is followed by a verb. For example, the woman who built this house hurt herself. Or I will work with whoever is the most qualified. Whom is an objective form of who and replaces him, her, them, me, or us. Use whom to add information about a person. Whom is usually followed by a noun or a pronoun. For example, the builder needs to hire someone whom he can trust. Also, you should know that whom you use in formal context, people rarely use it when speaking. Some linguists believe that whom may disappear from the English language one day. Finally, use whose to show possession. Whose replaces his, her, its, or their. For example, the person whose house we're building has gone bankrupt. To conclude, I hope this capsule helped you to understand better the subordinators, transitional words, and relative pronouns. I'm convinced that you will be better in these grammar notions in your next writing. Thank you!